So after what's been a very busy week, Wednesday actually got back to football in action with a visit down to the Hawthorns. Now West Brom haven't been in best form themselves this season, but it was a trip that Wednesday supporters still knew were going to be a very difficult one, a difficult fixture in prospect, because they have been nicking goals down there. And of course we have got our struggles in there, a real lack of depth in our squad. However, Henrik Pedersen did mix it up a little bit. We sort of went from a back five to more of a 3-4-3. There was a returning goal for Evan Horvath after his suspension with his sending off. A back three of Palmer, Iofa and Lowe. The two wing backs, Vizier and Amas. I mean, that's got to be the youngest full-back pairing in this division. Midfield, Valerie and Bannon. And up front, as I said, a slight little shuffle around there. Ingleson sort of coming out of his left side midfield berth to a attacking right hand side position. Jamal Lowe slotting out to the left. And there was a start for Ike Ugbo up front. As I said, we knew it was going to be a tricky game down there, and that they'd fancy it, let's be honest, on Wednesday with the minus points and probably morale quite low, certainly last week anyway. And they certainly went for it. The first 5 minutes, they really got stuck into us. There were quite a lot of throws and corners. I mean, they got a shot away after about a minute and a half. There was a lad on the left-hand side, that Mikey Johnson, who I'll be honest with you, don't know much about until today. He got a shot away. Horvath palmed that away quite well. And it was a positive start from the Baggies. They were clearly trying to get an early goal, because Wednesday, a team that don't really tend to sort of come from behind. We've not been hitting back at net a lot, so like most teams, and it's going to happen a lot to us this season, they thought if they could nick an early one, we'd be in trouble. But we did manage to weather that early onslaught. The first 10 minutes they looked really comfortable. They were having a lion's share of the ball, which you'd expect them to do anyway, as the home team. But Wednesday were just dropping off and getting in a sort of decent shape. I thought it was going to be a very tricky afternoon for our wingers. Vizier had got that Johnson, sort of coming inside him where he could. And on the other side, there was that Illing Jr. who looked really rapid, and first 5 or 10 minutes he looked to be causing Amas some problems. But I thought Wednesday started growing into it after that, and there was a subtle little change, I thought, in the way that Wednesday went about the defending after about 15 minutes. First we were dropping off, they really came for this sort of high energy first 5-10 minutes, trying to get that early goal. Wednesday a bit standoffish, and then I thought after that, I thought Vizier and Amas, I thought they started getting into the tackles a little bit quicker and a little bit sharper. And obviously with Palmer on the one side at right centre half and Lowe on the other side at left centre half, you've almost got that little bit of an insurance policy. So, as I said, that Illing Jr., quite a lively player, and as soon as when he got the ball and he was having a run at you, it was dangerous. But as soon as he got it, Amas were then trying to get in it and get a foot in, knowing he'd got Lowe coming in and sweeping behind him. And similar on the other side, Palmer going out and doing a lot of sort of covering job when Johnson sort of jinked in. So yes, I'd say from about 10-15 minutes, Wednesday start growing in the game, and I won't say creating real clear opportunities or anything like that, but getting sporadic attacks into their half that cause them 1 or 2 problems, put them on the back foot a little bit. As I've said a few times this season now, I do get a little bit nervy when Wednesday start having a bit of the ball. It's not against the players, the situation is what it is. But that's when I sometimes feel most at threat, and there was a little passage with probably the best chance of the first half, I would say. And it was Wednesday in possession. There was a little ball inside. Bannon's in a sort of a position between the left centre half and the left back. He's got the ball, and he knocked a ball into Valerie in our 18-yard box when he got the squeeze on him, and it was nicked off him. Mowat fired a shot in, and another brilliant palm and push wide by Horvath. And when they squeezed in us when we got possession, we had to be careful and a bit crisper with them passes. I would have said, they were trying to squeeze us in there. Wednesday's best chance probably about half an hour or so, and it comes from an aggressive tackle, what I was just talking about earlier with the mass and Fuzier seeming to get probably stuck in a little bit more after about 10-15 minutes. And it's Fuzier winning the ball really high up the pitch. He goes in, it's a good hard strong challenge, flicks the ball wide for Valerie, who's made a nice little curve overlap, and he whipped the ball in. Ugbo chucks himself at it. You know, if you're on one of them runs, it probably bounces off him and goes in, but as it is, as we know, he's having a tough time of it. Just evades him. Low sliding in at back post as well, just sort of catches him in a bad position. But a decent chance for Wednesday, that one. But the best one of the half, and as I said, it all comes from young Fuzier at right back, high up the pitch and winning a good strong tackle up there. Actually, I would say today's probably the best game I've seen him have for the club. It was a solid half from Wednesday. They'd had a good start, West Brom. We sort of started easing our way back into it. Nothing too clear cut, apart from possibly that chance when Valerie crossed it. But we were winning odd free kick up there when we were trying to catch him on counter attack. And it was one of them games where you thought, with that little bit more quality, we could probably nick a goal here, you know, and that's the one thing we're lacking. And everybody worked hard in that first half. I just thought the ball was coming back a little bit too quick for us. You know, the midfield and defence were really working hard. But just up front, we look a little bit short, you know. And I know I don't really want to single anybody out, but Ugbo was having a very hard time of it. And strikers are judged on goals. Like, you know, strikers are judged on goals. But even if you're having a bad run, there's other things you can do for the team. And when you're playing at centre forward, you've got to be stretching teams, haven't you? And trying to get into the box, trying to lose your marker and get in and go that way, and for a little flip ball over the top, or you know, if you know there's going to be a big diagonal and drifting off your man. Or alternatively, you know, you've got to be dropping in and showing for feet and dropping a yard off your man, little hold, get it out wide, and then sort of spinning. And I'm not really seeing, like I said, I don't really want to single anyone out, but that's how it's going to look. But I'd just like to see a little bit more. I thought we missed a bit of physicality up front, and I thought we missed Cadamartri starting. Obviously, I understand his game time has been managed because he's a young lad. And I thought we really missed Brown. And I think we're missing Brown far more than we should be for a young academy player who first season in sort of professional football. But he has got that presence. He does win headers. He does drop off and link and hold the ball up. You know, he gives himself a big back when he needs to. But also, he's not afraid for them runs into the box. I first noticed it, and I think it was that Leeds game in the Cup. He'll chase into channels all day long. Just point towards corner flag, bang it, I'll get after it, you know. And I thought we needed a bit more of that first half. Funnily enough, I'm saying I don't want to have a pop. We came out the second half and I think Henrik had a pop. Ingleson had a good half, first half. I'm not going to, I'll not let Ingleson. In fact, he's a sort of case in point of what I want from a centre forward. He's doing it from a deeper position, sort of inside right. But that's what I want my main man to do, because if you look at Ingleson, not quick as it will, but he will try and get in beyond. He will get up there and be powerful and bash people about, and I think that's what we're missing at the minute. And I know Ugbo's struggling for confidence and whatever else, but sometimes I wonder if it's attitude. And no, actually, I'm going to retract that. It's not attitude. That's the wrong word, because attitude suggests you've got a good attitude or a bad attitude, and that's not what I mean. Personality is probably a better way to describe it. Some people have got that easy, osy personality, which is fine when things are coming off you. When it's not coming off you, have you got that needle to get yourself going? So you look at a player like Barry Bannon. He's got that needle. Now, he's not always going to have a great game. So his passing's not always going to be brilliant. Sometimes his finishing's not going to be brilliant. His tackling's going to miss time. But he's always going to have a level because of that intensity. He's got that personality type. He's offended if somebody gets past him. He's offended if somebody beats him to the ball, you know. And as I said, that's not really about, you know, attitude as such. It's about your personality type. That little bit of needle, that little bit of aggression, you know, that sort of aggressive personality. I think you need that at top end at pitch. Anyway, I'm digressing here, just talking about forwards. Digressing. Anyway, so more positive for Wednesday's strikers after the break, I think. Little bit more aggression in there, which there needed to be. 57th minute, pause in play. Do you remember Mark Townsend? There was a West Brom supporter who sadly lost his life at Hillsborough last season. All four sides applauding and clapping, and the players joining in as well, which I thought was a nice touch. Like I said, a bit more intensity from us up front, and then probably our best chance of the game, maybe the best chance of the game full stop for either side at 66th minute. Ingleson again down the right hand side, aggressive, drives on, puts the ball into hug ball. He's made a good run, he's drifted off his man, that's great, that's what you want to see. The ball comes across, he has a touch, he comes in and tries to get a shot away. He don't quite get the power on it, but it's a decent move. But he's sort of going back inside. I know he wants to get inside so the goal's right in front of him, because of where the defenders are, and he's then having to try and get his foot sort of round it a little bit. As that ball comes in from Ingleson, but at the time I'm just looking at it and thinking, can he do a step in and step out? You know, where the defender thinks, oh, he's going to come in here, and you just let it come across you. You can just nudge it out with his, you know, his instep of his left foot, take it into the box, and then he's got a chance to cream it. Just let it come across you, a little touch, and then smash. But as it is, he sort of comes back in a little bit congested, and then can't quite get the power on him, because he's under pressure as the defender's sort of coming out. So, but they're the little decisions, and when you've gone as long as he's gone without a goal, you know, I think you're just that desperate to get it on target. You perhaps sometimes not thinking about could I do this, could I do that? It's just right, just get a shot away. Very open game, last 20 minutes or so. That Johnson got inside, he did really well, he really good played him. He got inside Fizier, and then I think Palmer came across, and then somebody else, I think it was Valerini. He just kept jinking in and in and in. He got a good shot away, and again another positive save. Hawthorns gets down low, gets a good strong arm to it, and he's made about 3 or 4 really good saves today actually. Hawthorns, perhaps, you know, even more, but 3 really good ones out of a handful. When do you think they could win the game that last 5-10 minutes? You know, they're thinking, hang on, we've been in this, we've been solid at the back. And they start going for it. McNeil comes into the action for Ingleson, who's had another tireless game, worked really hard in that sort of inside right position. Cadimartri comes in for the ball up front, and he's got that little bit of physicality that I'm talking about that I thought we might have been lacking in the first half. And he gets up and challenges for headers, and anyone could jump up for an header, but there's a difference between somebody jumping for an header and somebody challenging for an header, and he seems to enjoy that side of the game, and some players enjoy it and some don't. He seems to, that bit of physical presence, and he'll chuck himself about. He's got that in him that he enjoys a battle, and that's what I was talking about earlier. It's personality sometimes. It's not about a good or a bad attitude, sometimes just personality. He seems to enjoy that. I thought it gave Wednesday a little bit more, and as I said, last 5-10 we start thinking we can nick this, we've been solid at back. But as we start committing men forward to that, equally we're leaving little gaps at the back, and then West Brom are thinking, well, we can nick this, we've had most at first half. And it really is end to end. But the last 5 minutes and going into injury time, especially Wednesday, on the back foot, West Brom get a series of corners. It was probably 4 or 5 corners maybe, but Wednesday dealt with it resolutely. And that in itself is really pleasing to see, because if you think back from 5 years ago till about 2 years ago, I would say there was a 3-year window when every time Wednesday conceded a corner, you turned away. You were like, well, I don't want to see opposition score, and you knew they were going to. We were really poor at it. Really good today, and in fact this season as a whole I think we've been far better defending set pieces, but especially the corners, numbers in the box, and we're making the first contact, if you like. We're winning the first header, the first challenge, and when we're not, we're getting on the second ball. That series of corners at the end, for example, like I said, I think it was maybe 4 or 5, but Lowe's in there made a brilliant head clearance away. Jamal Lowe got in there and got one away and got himself sort of whacked in the process. Iorfa's got up there and made a good block with his header. Palmer's had one away. The keeper's come out and he's made a really good punch. So all of them, much better defending from corners. So, as I said, the final whistle goes. Both teams thought they could nick it at the end. Both had a bit of a go at it at the end. Wednesday withheld that late storm from West Brom, and it's an excellent point. Clean sheet, always delighted with a clean sheet. I love that. But there's that little part of me, and I know it's daft because we've got no money to spend. We can't sign anybody. The squad is what it is. We've got 5 out of 7 kids on the bench or whatever it is. So I try not to, ifs and buts. But you can't help it, can you? I'm just looking at it and think, with just that little bit up front, that could have been 3 today, but that's the nature of the beast. We've gone away from home, kept a clean sheet, defended absolutely resolutely. No more so than Iorfa, who I think said a great game. He has been HKTB today. Now that's not a 1950s American radio station playing the latest rock and roll tunes. It's head, kick, tackle, block, and he's done that all day today. As I said, I'm a bit of a dinosaur, like old-fashioned football. People talk about centre halves. Oh, he's gone on ball. Oh, he dropped his shoulder. He can beat a man. No, centre halves for me. Head, kick, tackle, block. He's done that all day long. Delighted for him. My man of the match is Dom, but it was a good all-over performance. They've all worked their socks off. The 2 young fullbacks, they seem to be getting stronger every week. I think Fazier, that's his best game I've seen him have for the club. And even if you look at the 2 wide centre halves, with Lowe and Palmer in there, both traditionally, if you like, fullbacks in their own right, but they've come in and played that wide centre half role. And they're actually giving us a really nice balance, with Palmer at right and Lowe at left. And it gives us that little insurance policy when our young wing backs get up there and join in the attack. So I'm very much enjoying the way Wednesday's setting up. I'm enjoying our defensive work. Great point. But as I said, as a fan, you always have these little what ifs, and what if we'd just got that little bit more at top of pitch? But anyway, a really good point. And now we're looking forward to Norwich. They were having a very tough time of it themselves. I was a bit surprised to see where they were in table today, but with a bumper crowd at Hillsborough again, on the back of a strong performance like this and a clean sheet, I don't really see any reason why we can't have a real go at them and get 3 points. This is my worst one of the season. I've rushed it all. This is what happens when you leave it till 2 in the morning. And I do think I'm getting an eye infection.